Hello all. I am again back with another interesting SQL problem. So just watch this video. You will find something interesting. Let's see what's the question, and then probably we can jump into the solution. So the question is basically we have an input, and that input has three columns: buyer ID, listing ID, and quantity. So the question here is like you need to find out the purchases and the repurchases and the repurchase rate for each listing ID. So what this means is basically for listing ID 3456, if you see that for listing ID 3456 we had two rows, so and both of them have a different buyer, right? So this means it has been purchased for two times by this buyer ID and there are no repurchases, right? And what repurchase means is basically, let's look at for the listing ID 5678. For 5678, we have three records and we have two buyer IDs, right? This one and this two. So that means we have three purchases. So we will be having three purchases in the output, and among them, so if you see the buyer ID 1234 is getting repeated for the listing ID, right? So that means there is only one repurchase, right? And in that way, we need to find out the repurchase rate. So here the repurchase rate is 0 by 2 into 100 is 0%. And here the repurchase rate is 1 by 3 is nothing but 33%. So we need to find out this answer. So this is my input table. So I'm taking a pause here. So just think about it, how you can solve it. Then probably we can jump into the solution. Okay. So now, okay, let's jump into the solution. Probably if you have the answer, just post the answer in the comment section. I'm just solving the question for you. So just watch till the end. So this is my input data, right? So this is my input data. And how we are going to do it, just think about it. So let's go here in the input. Just think about it. If we have, let's say, if we can, create a row number based on the listing ID and the buyer ID, right? If I, kind of partition by the listing ID and buyer ID. So think about that. This will become 1, right? This will become 2, right? And this will become, you know, uh, so for this buyer ID, so it will be becoming 2 here, right? This will become 1, right? And this 2 basically will become, 1 and 1. So what I'm saying is, so we can create a row number based on, or kind of partition by listing ID and buyer ID. So you'll get that row sequence. So think about that. If the sequence is greater than 1, that means that is duplicated, right? So if you see for this thing, this and this, so you are having 1 and 2, right? So whenever the sequence is greater than 1, that means this is getting duplicated. So that means it is a repurchase, right? So think about this thing. I mean, what I'm saying. So if it is getting duplicated or if it is being duplicated, so that means we'll be having a sequence number 2. I mean, the next sequence number, and that sequence number is nothing but a duplicate, right? So now what I'm going to do is, so just create a row number the way I told. So row number over partition by, okay, partition by buyer ID, comma, listing ID, comma, sorry, order by. So now we will create the sequence number, right? So for that sequence number, I'm taking select one, because in SQL Server, we will have to provide a order by clause to create a sequence number. So for that, I'm creating a sequence number. I'm selecting select one. So select one, what it will do is it will just create the sequence for you for each buyer ID and listing ID. So now I'm giving it as giving an alias name as sequence. Okay, now this is the code, so let's run this. So we are getting, if you see, so this for this buyer ID and listing ID, I'm getting a sequence number as 2. So this is actually getting duplicated. Okay, so this is getting duplicated. So now so this is nothing but the repurchase, correct? So now what I can do is, so make that as a subquery. Okay, and what I'm going to select is select listing ID. So what I need to generate, we need to generate the listing ID, purchase and repurchase rate, right? So listing ID, so for each listing ID, okay, take the total count. So that is nothing but the purchase, right? So this is purchases, right? The total count will be the purchases, and the repurchase count, how are we going to do that is count, just type case when sequence greater than 1. I told you, right? Whenever the sequence is greater than 1, that means that particular row for that listing ID will be the repurchase, right? So sequence greater than 1, then 1, else null, end as repurchases, right? And give from and group by listing ID, right? So for each listing ID, what I'm trying to take, I'm just taking count of 1. So the total count for each listing ID will be the purchases, and for when the sequence is greater than 1 for that listing ID, right? For that listing ID, when the sequence ID is greater than 1, that will be the repurchase. So if I run this, you'll be getting that, right? For listing ID, if you see, this purchase is 2 and repurchase is 0, right? And for 5, 6, 7, 8, purchase is 3 and repurchase is 1, right? So if you see, for 5, 6, 7, 8, for 5, 6, 7, 8, we have 3 records, right? So this is nothing but the repurchase, and for 5, 6, 7, 8, we have 1 repurchase, right? So sorry, for 5, 6, 7, 8, we have 3 purchases, right? And 1 repurchase, because this is the only one which is the repurchase, right? So we got that result, but we need to find out the repurchase rate. That's okay. How you can do this is so what we are going to do is so the percentage you need to find out, right? So percentage is nothing but take this, so this divided by this is the percentage, right? Correct. But this will not give you the data, right? Because this will give you something 0 0. So the division will not work. So to get the division or the fraction, if you need to get the fraction result, so for that what I need to do is just multiply 1.00. Okay, so this will give you the fraction, correct? So this will give you the fraction rate. Now what you need to do after that is basically, so if you know if you just try to this, if you try to multiply 100, right? So this will give you the percentage, right? But we don't need that many of decimals. So what we can do is you just cast that function, cast that value as decimal 10, 2. So this is nothing but, this will be like, I need after the point I need only 2 values. So that's why I have given 10, 2 as just write down percentage rate or something. What I had, repurchase rate, right? So just take repurchase rate. Okay, so if I run this, we'll be having the data that repurchase rate 0.00 and 33.33. But our answer is like 0% and 33%, right? So just so we don't need that, after the point, we don't need that decimal places. So for that, you just remove this and try to run this. You'll be getting 0 and 33. But this is not the entire answer, right? So you need the percentage symbol also. For that, it's very simple. Just concat that result. Okay, just concat that result with a percent. Okay, so this will give you what happened. Concat is, oh, sorry, concat is not recognized. Okay, so now if you try to execute, so you'll be getting that exact answer like this, right? So this is the answer that we are looking for. So this is the query that you need to write. So I hope you have liked the solution. If you have liked it, so please comment and subscribe the channel, like the answer, and hopefully we'll be back again with another interesting problem. So till then, thank you, bye.